Part 89. The legitimate daughter of the prosperous medical fragrance will not marry. Author, Jinchi. Chapter 881. Chapter 881 Restless Thoughts. Yin Lia was originally late, everyone talked for a while, and the afternoon was about to pass. Tao Yuxian saw that everyone was too sleepy to open their eyes, so he waved his hands to let everyone disperse. The daughters-in-law in each room really couldn't hold on any longer, so they quickly got up and left. When Fan Qinjiao pulled Mu Yan up, he saw that Yin Lia had no intention of leaving at all, so he winked at Aunt He before going out. Aunt He understood it in her heart, and immediately walked to Yin Lia and said, "My eldest cousin, the yard where you and your cousin live has been cleared out. Let the old slave lead you and your cousin to wash up and rest first." Yin Lia frowned at Aunt He. "You go out first, I still have something to say to my aunt." This, Aunt He could only look at the old lady. Tao Yuxian waved her hand and asked Aunt He to go out first, then looked at Yin Lia and said, "If what you want to ask is the family you want to marry, I will send someone to inquire about it tomorrow. There are too many things going on in the house, so I have put down the matter of Lishan's marriage for the time being." Tao Yuxian said this in a polite way. Who knew if this person would be able to come to Hua's house when the commotion was like that? Tao Yuxian would naturally not spend his time helping someone who didn't even know if he could step in. Find out what? Yin Lia's face was still not very good looking. Thinking of Fan Qinjiao's arrogant look, her chest ached. People in this house have no rules, so naturally I have to make my aunt worry about it. I didn't expect that a sister with a foreign surname would actually being so arrogant. I'm afraid my aunt has a lot to worry about in the house. I think we should set some rules, and those who don't know the rules in politics. Tao Yuxian knew that what Xiao Qinjiao said just now was serious, but if Yin Lia was easy to get along with, Xiao Qinjiao would definitely not be like this. That child Qinjiao has always been obedient and sensible. You will know it when you get familiar with her. Yin Lia snorted disdainfully, the person with a foreign surname is just not well raised. If he really had a good character, he wouldn't have been kicked out by his ancestral family in the first place. I kindly remind you, Aunt. Of course I know my grandson well, so I don't bother others to worry about it. Tao Yuxian's voice became obviously colder. On one side was her cousin's family, and on the other was her granddaughter. Even though she was worried about her cousin, it doesn't mean that anyone can gossip about her grandson in front of her. When Cao Lishan saw that her aunt was angry, she quickly looked at her mother and said, "Mom, let's go and rest too." Yin Lia rolled her eyes at Cao Lishan. When adults speak, children have nothing to say. Sit aside and don't learn from good things but bad things. Once you go out, you will lose your rules. Cao Lishan was so angry that she didn't dare to say anything, so she could only lower her head and sit back on the chair. Yin Lia looked at Tao Yuxian and asked with a smile, "Speaking of which, Sister Yao is engaged to be engaged. Today I saw a man escorting Sister Yao back to the house. The two of them were chatting with each other at the door of the house." Really? It makes me, a person who has been here, blush just looking at it. Fan Qinjiao was named the crown princess, but everyone in the main city knew about it. After all, she hadn't gotten married yet, and the emperor didn't send news to other cities. Now Yin Lia doesn't know Bailey Fengming's identity, let alone, even he knew nothing about Fan Qinjiao's identity. If they were really real relatives, it would be okay for Tao Yuxian to tell the truth, but thinking about Yin Lia's behavior, she said, "I'm just a young master from an ordinary family in the main city. I've already said marriage. I'll wait for the man to have some housework. Once the matter is settled, the person gets married." Yin Lia didn't believe what Tao Yuxian said about a young master from an ordinary family. When she was sitting in the carriage, she took a closer look. The clothes he wore were not ordinary materials. Coupled with the aura around him, he looked like he belonged to a wealthy family. The rich young master. Even though Tao Yuxian bit him to death, Yin Lia had no choice but to take Cao Lishan and leave first. As soon as Yin Lia left, Tao Yuxian called and he over, "Go and inform everyone in the mansion that no one should reveal the identity of the prince during this period." And he listened to the old lady's instructions and said, "Even if Grandma Biao has any idea, this matter won't happen. Your Highness, the prince represents the royal family. How can she enter the royal gate just by asking?" Tao Yuxian sighed, "That's what I said, but the emperor's suspicion of our Hua family has not been eliminated. It's better to have less to worry about than to have more to worry about." Tao Yuxian was right. Yin Lia did have thoughts that she shouldn't have. Although she had always disliked her daughter, if her daughter married well, her face would naturally be bright. So as soon as she brought her daughter into the yard, Yin Lia lowered her voice and asked, "Did you see clearly the man who had a good relationship with Fan Qinjiao in the carriage just now?" Cao Lishan was stunned. She was being scolded by her mother at that time. When she looked over, she happened to see the man with his back to her, gently arranging cousin Qinjiao's hair. Although she couldn't see his expression, she thought about the expression on his face. It should be very gentle. When Yin Lia saw her daughter didn't speak for a long time, she slapped her face down. "I say, you are useless. You are really useless at all. I don't know what you are looking at all day long with a pair of eyes, but can you see? It doesn't matter if you see him, sooner or later he will be your husband." Cao Lishan was startled. "That's cousin Qinjiao's fiancé. Cousin Qinjiao, you are just without a father to support you. Let me tell you, I am thinking about you too. Getting married is a lifelong matter. You don't have to wait until later if you don't want to do this or that now. You'll know what I said is right when you taste it." I think that when Yin Lia came to Hua's house for the first time, she had heard about Hua Yuelian. To put it bluntly, she didn't even look down on Fan Qinjiao's mother, so how could she take Fan Qinjiao seriously? If the Hua family knows about this, how will they interact with each other in the future? Cao Lishan Nyanyo said. Yin Lia stretched out her hand to twist Cao Lishan's ears and said, "Happiness is obtained by yourself. As long as you have glory and wealth, others will naturally come to curry favor with you. If the Hua family is really stingy and vengeful, like this, it's okay if people don't move around." "Mom, I know, I really know." Cao Lishan shed tears of pain and could only nod her head desperately, hoping that her mother would stop beating her. Yin Lia looked at Cao Lishan's submissive look and became angry. "How could I give birth to such a disgraceful thing like you? Just listen to me. If I kiss you in the future, you must look at my eyes. If you mess up, I'll skin you." Cao Lishan nodded heavily, not daring to hesitate any longer. End of this chapter. The legitimate daughter of the prosperous medical fragrance will not marry. Author, Jinchi. Chapter 882. Chapter 882 lived at Hua's house temporarily. Even though it was the Cao family who proposed marriage, since the person comes to the Hua family still has to help lay the lining. Tao Yuxian was busy looking for a tailor to come to Cao Lishan's home to make new clothes for Cao Lishan, and also specially hired a craftsman to customize a set of jewelry. Although the daughter-in-law of each house did not like the style of Grandma Biao, she did not want to be delayed because of this. In the child's life, he deliberately took time to take Cao Lishan to the main city to relax and gain experience. The Liao family has taken over the people of Dongxiang. Fan Qinjiao specifically asked Ning'an to send his prescription to the Liao family, and even personally marked the prescription. 2 copies, one for the Liao family and one for her. In this way, the Liao family can only prepare the medicinal materials according to Fan Qinjiao's prescription. If the Liao family wants to cut corners, it is not impossible, as long as they are not afraid of confrontation in court. The old man of the Liao family was in bed to recuperate. Hearing this, he rolled his eyes and passed out completely. However, No matter how reluctant the Liao family was, they had to prepare the medicine according to Fan Qinjiao's prescription. Sent to the East Alley via the servants of the Liao family. Concubine Yu did not expect that Bailey Fengming would reveal the matter of Dongxiang to the emperor. Now the emperor clearly wants to use the people in Dongxiang to build a good reputation for herself. No matter how angry concubine Yu is, she can only if you can give up. Will you really disobey the emperor? Fortunately, the people in Dongxiang could not recover as before, otherwise concubine Yu would really die of worry. For several days, Fan Qinjiao was busy communicating with the Liao family, and did not pay attention to the news in the house. When he heard about his cousin, it was the news that Cao Lishan was in love with a prostitute. At that time, it was only Yin Lia and Cao Lishan who talked about getting married. When the two came back, Yin Lia was crying so hard that she complained that her daughter was not living up to expectations and was looked down upon by others. Originally, it was the Cao family who wanted to marry each other, and the Hua family didn't want to do much inquiring. Tao Yuxian didn't expect that the marriage would be bad, so seeing Yin Lia's angry look, he simply kept her here to recuperate for a while. In this way, it is logical that Yin Lia and Cao Lishan temporarily live in Hua's house. This news is not good news for everyone in the Hua family. Even Hua Yaoding, who usually doesn't care about the backyard affairs, was speechless for a while after hearing it. In the final analysis, Yin Lia is still too difficult to get along with. No one will feel too happy just thinking about continuing to live under the same roof with such a person. But it was not easy to live well, and the daughter-in-law of each house still had to visit Yin Lia every day and say all kinds of comforting words. My servant heard that the family that proposed marriage to the Cao family had already made a marriage arrangement with the Cao family a few years ago. How could it be that it was just a matter of marriage? Ning'an now heard that there are people in the big kitchen every day. I have to cook for my grandma first, and then it's someone else's turn. I don't know when this kind of life will end. Fan Qinjiao said, perhaps I was dazzled by the scenery of the main city, but no matter what the reason for the marriage proposal fell through, the Cao family cannot stay in the Hua family forever. Ning'an nodded, hoping for the first time that this day would pass quickly. Little Miss Lishan is here. Nanny Su stood at the door and said. Fan Qinjiao was a little surprised, but thinking that since everyone was here, it was hard to really keep them out, so he nodded and said, invite people in. Cao Lishan opened the curtain and walked in. She was wearing a slim-fitting aqua blue dress and a delicate plum blossom hairpin on her temples. Compared with the first day we met, she now indeed looked like a lady from the main city. Lishan has met cousin Qinjiao. As soon as Cao Lishan saw Fan Qinjiao, she took the initiative to salute. Fan Qinjiao signaled Ning'an to bring a chair over, and waited for Cao Lishan to sit down before saying, why do you have time to come here? Cao Lishan was still a little cautious when facing Fan Qinjiao. She pinched the handkerchief in her hand and said, I know that everyone in the house doesn't like my mother, but in the final analysis, it was because of my mother that she fell ill. It was me. It's no use asking the Hua family to help me share the burden. If cousin Qinjiao is angry, just tell me. After Ning'an heard this, she realized that Miss Lishan was here to apologize. Thinking about the domineering cousin's grandma, and looking at the sensible and obedient cousin Miss Lishan, it's really hard to imagine that these two people could be mother and daughter. Fan Qinjiao looked at Cao Lishan and said, but what are you talking about with someone in the house? Cao Lishan quickly shook her head, no, it's me who feels I owe the Hua family. Since no one said anything, cousin Lishan doesn't need to worry too much. Although the Hua family and the Cao family are not direct relatives, I heard that my grandmother and aunt were very close when they were young. Since they are a family, there is no need to say more. Family talk. No matter why Cao Lexan had such an idea, she shouldn't say it. If my grandmother hears these words, I'm afraid she will feel guilty and self-blame. After all, The reason why the CAO family came to visit is because my grandmother cares about the relationship between the sisters. If my cousin hears this, I'm afraid she will misunderstand that the Hua family is behind the scenes. What he said would make the relationship between the two families even more tense. Fan Kinjao doesn't like his cousin, but since his grandmother can let her come to the house, it proves that she still cares about her sister. In this case, Fan Kinjao naturally doesn't want her grandmother to do bad things out of kindness. Hearing this, Cao Lishan quickly stood up and said, "Did I say something wrong that made cousin Kinjao unhappy?" Just when Fan Kinjao was about to speak, he saw some bruises on one side of Cao Lishan's ear. He quickly got up and pulled the person over to check, and saw that one side of Cao Lishan's ear was torn from the base of the ear. "Ninggan, go get my medicine box." "Yes, miss." Fan Kinjao pulled Cao Lishan back to the chair. After Ninggan delivered the medicine box, he carefully treated the wound on Cao Lishan's ear. It was at this time that Fan Kinjao discovered that there were a lot of scars on Cao Lishan's body. They were of different shades. It seemed that they had not fallen at the same time. Thinking about Yin Lia's temperament, it is self-evident how Cao Lishan got these injuries. However, Fan Kinjao had no intention of asking. After the wound was treated, he carefully told Cao Lishan not to let the wound touch water in the near future, and handed over the ointment he had just applied. "Take this, remember to do it every night, apply it before going to bed, so you won't get any scars." Cao Lishan looked at the ointment in her hand and didn't know what to do for a moment. Ninghan was afraid that Cao Lishan, like Yin Lia, would be dissatisfied with things just because she was rich, so she hurriedly said, "This is what our future uncle gave to my lady from the palace. No matter how much money you have, you can't buy it." In the palace, Cao Lishan was so frightened that she almost threw the ointment on the ground. Fan Kinjao smiled and said, "It's not that precious, but it is indeed better than what is sold on the market. Take it back and use it." Cao Lishan nodded, looking at Fan Kinjao's red eyes. "Thank you, cousin Kinjao." End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The legitimate daughter of the prosperous medical fragrance will not marry. Author, Jinchi. Chapter 883. Chapter 883. The Man Behind the Screen. Cao Lishan sat here with Fan Kinjao for a while again before getting up and leaving. Ninggan sent the person out of the house, and when she came back, she couldn't help but sigh, "Miss Lishan is so pitiful. She is oppressed by a mother like that all day long, and she doesn't even have any opinions of her own." Fan Kinjao smiled faintly. If he really had no opinion, he would not have taken the initiative to apologize today. However, neither Cao Lishan nor Yin Lia had much to do with her. To put it bluntly, they were just a fault of the Hua family. Just as he was thinking about it, he saw Mu Yan entering the door. "I guess I was walking in a hurry, my cheeks were red and my forehead was covered with sweat." Fan Kinjao took out a handkerchief and wiped her forehead gently. "Why are you in such a hurry? Although it is July, there is still enough sunshine in the day. Be careful of heart stroke." Mu Yan was really thirsty, so she took a big gulp of tea from her third sister's teacup. Fan Kinjao looked at Mu Yan like this, feeling both distressed and amused. Cao Lishan, who had not yet walked out of the yard, looked at the warm scene in the house through the window, and realized that cousin Kinjao's smile was so beautiful. In the room, Mu Yan drank 3 cups of tea before passing the booklet in her hand over and said, "Third sister, take a look." Fan Kinjao took it and opened it, and it turned out to be a booklet for the new business alliance. Now the thick booklet was filled with names, and it was spread across shops in all walks of life in the city. Nowadays, more and more merchants are joining the merchant alliance, and most of them are from the old merchant alliance. The young master of the Su family said that all merchants who come from the old merchant alliance will have their membership fees waived for the first year. Fan Kinjao proposed to establish a new business alliance with Su Shaoxi, but the specific implementation was always handed over by Mu Yan and Su Shaoxi. Firstly, she hopes that Mu Yan can gradually establish a foothold in the main city. Secondly, if she really marries into the royal family in the future, she will not be able to interfere in these matters in the main city, otherwise the man in the palace will be greedy. I still don't know how to squeeze the oil and water out of her body. Fan Kinjao had no choice but to agree to help the imperial court raise the army, and it was also because the imperial army was the result of many years of hard work by her grandfather, but she would never use the money from the merchants in the main city to fill the bottomless pit in the palace. Mu Yan didn't know what the third sister was thinking, so she paused and said, the young master of the Su family also said that after a while, he will complete the negotiations on the cloth villages in the other two cities, and the number of people will increase. Fan Kinjao. Su Shaoxi has completely eliminated the old business alliance. Although Su Shaoxi's methods were violent and ruthless, I have to say that the result was still very satisfying. Since Fan Kinjao had decided to hand over the business alliance to Mu Yan and Su Shaoxi, he naturally would not ask too many questions now. In this way, the Liao family really made matters worse. Han Jingchen was the first to hear the news. Knowing that Mu Yan had become the new merchant alliance, he guessed that Fan Kinjao's handiwork must be involved. He immediately ordered the sixth prince to go to the new merchant alliance's shop to buy medicinal materials. Seeing people eating and buying food, it gave the sixth prince so much pain. And as Han Jingchen took the lead, Princess Pinglai, the eighth prince, and the princess of Heshuo County also participated. Aren't they the shops that support the new merchant alliance? Originally, they would go out to buy on weekdays. If they can still support Fan Kinjao, why wouldn't they? Even the second princess secretly sent people to several shops in the new merchant alliance after hearing about it. Although the things she bought were not comparable to those of the previous ones, she still voted for them. The number of people in the merchant alliance was decreasing day by day. Coupled with such troubles, the people in the merchant alliance moved faster. In just a few days, the originally bustling merchant alliance seemed to be haunted. Seeing that the roster of names that originally numbered 1,000 people was now empty, the elders of the business alliance looked at the Liao family with deep repulsion and resentment in their eyes. What makes the Liao family vomit blood the most is that the merchant alliance is already in dire straits, but it has also been burdened with the people in the East Alley for no reason. Although it is not a big sum of money, it cannot last for a long time. It can continue to be supplied in this way. Within 5 years, there will be a hole in the front door of the Liao family. The old man of the Liao family fell on the bed, woke up and fainted, and woke up again. After going back and forth several times, half of his life was about to fall in. The two masters of the Liao family saw that things were really out of control. I could only bite the bullet and send someone to send a post in the middle of the night. Fortunately, the person who received the post responded quickly, and the location was decided in the most famous restaurant in the main city. The restaurant is located on the edge of the moat. The 5-story red building is eye-catching. Because the late emperor once dined in this restaurant when he was on tour, and even wrote an inscription in his own hand as a gift with the 4 characters Dowdy Delicacy. Therefore, after the late emperor drove Hexi to the west, it was the imperial court took it into its pocket, and now it is a place exclusively for officials to eat. The people who come here to eat are all officials and family members of the current dynasty. The 2 gentlemen of the Liao family who usually could only watch from a distance now actually walked in and were shocked just by looking at the buildings inside. Of cold sweat. As the waiter led the way, the 2 gentlemen of the Liao family walked around to a private room on the 4th floor. When they opened the door and walked in, they saw the exquisite delicacies placed on the table. You two don't have to be polite, just enjoy it. Behind the screen embroidered with hundreds of birds facing the phoenix, a feminine male voice suddenly sounded. The two masters of the Liao family were obviously startled by the sound, but when they came to their senses, neither of them dared to show any anger on their faces. Instead, they bowed to the screen respectfully. "Waist salute. It was us who suddenly sent you a post out of the blue. We had no choice, so we alerted you to come forward." At this time, the two Liao family masters no longer had the aloofness they once had. They were bowing down extremely humbly, not even daring to raise their heads at will. The man behind the screen didn't think there was anything wrong and smiled softly. "Tell me, why are you looking for me? You must have heard about the recent events in the new business alliance in the main city. Fan Kinjao is indeed very cunning, and it's all about stabbing him in the back. We really had no choice, so we invited you out," Uncle Liao said helplessly. "The Liao family followed your wishes and deliberately raised the dues, but now they are in this situation. You must help the Liao family." The second master of the Liao family also followed suit. In fact, they were not familiar with this person, or had never met him in person, but they had dealt with this person several times with their father, and it was with this person's advice that the Liao family was able to the business alliance gained a foothold. And what makes the Liao family dare not offend the most is that in order to please concubine Yu, they sided with the third prince and even sent Liao Yue to be the aunt of the second prince. But now the person sitting behind the screen is even Princess Yunyu today is addressed by her honorific title. How could the Liao family dare to provoke such a high and low opinion? End of this chapter. The legitimate daughter of the prosperous medical fragrance will not marry. Author, Jinchi. Chapter 884. Chapter 884. Dare to see you if you dare to come. This incident is indeed because I underestimated Fan Kinjao. I originally thought that she was just a little girl, but I didn't expect that her methods and brains could be so smart and cruel. The man behind the screen was still smiling, not because of himself. Angry at the loss. Fan Kinjao is just lucky. Who would have thought that the prince would accidentally inform the emperor about the incident in Dongxiang? The second master of the Liao family said disdainfully. If it weren't for the establishment of the new business alliance and Fan Kinjao contacting the Su family to transport medicinal materials from outside the city, how could the people in the East Alley bring down the Liao family? Or is the Liao family just an empty shell? The man behind the screen chuckled. What good does it do to us if you admit that Fan Kinjao has the means? The second master of the Liao family would not admit that he had lost to a little girl. My younger brother is used to being outspoken. Please don't mind me. It's just that the Liao family really can't afford to keep going on like this. The uncle of the Liao family glared at his younger brother and the person behind the screen. But even their father would nod and bow down when he saw him. It was their turn to be arrogant without permission. The second child just didn't know how to restrain his temper. If you are not as skilled as others, you have to admit defeat. Fan Kinjao's means and courage are indeed beyond the comparison of the two of you. If you want the Liao family to save the day, just take the initiative to apologize to Fan Kinjao. Pingfeng, the man behind, said softly. Are you asking me to go and apologize to a little girl? The second master of the Liao family widened his eyes, and his resistance was self-evident. If he really went, how would he be able to gain a foothold in the Liao family in the future? This time, even the eldest son of the Liao family did not speak. It was indeed the Liao family who lost to Fan Kinjao this time, but he always thought that it was not the end of the road yet. Now others don't know, but the Liao family all know that they are standing on the ship of the third prince, so it's not bad. Just let them apologize to the people on the prince's side. Will they still be human beings in the future? Those who achieve great things don't stick to trivial matters. You are not as skilled as others, but you are still unwilling to bow your head and ask for peace. What's the use of holding on to face? It's just the backbone bought with money. The man's sneer voice came intermittently from behind the screen. Coming out, it was like slaps one after another, hitting the faces of the two masters of the Liao family hard. The second master of the Liao family was so angry that he subconsciously wanted to retort, but the elder of the Liao family grabbed his younger brother's sleeve, looked at the man behind the screen and said, "Now that the reputation of the Liao family has been damaged in the main city, if it is rumored again, unless we take the initiative to bow our heads and admit our mistakes to Fan Qinjiao, even if the Liao family escapes this disaster, we will no longer have any prestige in the future. When that time comes, the Liao family will lose its reputation and will never be able to do so again. It would be a big mistake not to be able to serve the noble concubine and Princess Yunyu. Since the Liao family is on the same boat as the third prince, if something happens now, the third prince should naturally express his attitude. After all, the third prince still needs the money of the Liao family. If this matter really involves the third prince, with Fan Qinjiao's government, I'm afraid even the third prince will be implicated. Don't forget, the third prince needs money from the Liao family, yes, but if something happens to the third prince, the Liao family will not get any benefits." The man's words directly pointed out the little thoughts of the Liao family. The uncle of the Liao family was silent and speechless. He never expected that this man was not very young, but his mind was so clear and his thoughts were so meticulous that it was scary. A layer of sweat broke out on his back. But just when the uncle of the Liao family was determined to apologize to Fan Qinjiao, he heard the man say again, "But I am becoming more and more interested in that girl Fan Qinjiao. I will go and her just post it and I'll meet her in person." The uncle of the Liao family was stunned and subconsciously looked at his younger brother beside him. The second master of the Liao family nodded quickly to his eldest brother. It was not good for someone to take the initiative to help them deal with it. Whether it was bowing his head to admit his mistake or apologizing, as long as they were not allowed to embarrass this person. Uncle Liao also thought this was true. After leaving the restaurant and returning to his residence, he immediately sent someone to deliver the post to his mansion in the western suburbs. Mu Yan happened to have just returned home from the New Merchant Alliance. When she saw that it was a post sent by someone from the Liao family, she personally took the post to third sister's side. "I guess the Liao family can't support it any longer, so they decided to write a post and come to apologize in person, right?" Mu Yan pondered. Fan Qinjiao said, "If the two gentlemen of the Liao family really had the guts to bow their heads, they wouldn't have done anything like breaking into my backyard. I'm afraid there was an expert behind them giving them advice." Mu Yan was stunned. Is this what the old man of the Liao family meant? Fan Qinjiao smiled lightly, "No matter who means it, the person who posted this post is obviously smarter than the two gentlemen of the Liao family." Mu Yan frowned and said, "In that case, it's better that the third sister doesn't come forward this time. I'll go help." Fan Qinjiao shook his head, "I think there are still many things for you to deal with in the new business alliance. You just need to take care of the new business alliance. The main city is a mixed bag of fish and dragons, but the most indispensable thing is some respectable people. To put it bluntly, the rich and powerful are all over the streets. But the higher a person stands, the less able he is to let go of his stature. People are all good looking. But the person who posted this post to Fan Qinjiao obviously understands the principle of retreating in order to advance. Such a person looks like he is giving in, but in fact he is the most difficult to deal with. If Mu Yan really comes forward, he will be eaten to pieces." After listening to the third sister's words, Mu Yan also thought of the danger in it and said, "Then why not just disappear? I will send someone to send the post back to the Liao family. The Liao family has obviously kept a low profile by sending this post over. If we avoid seeing it, it will appear to be superior to others. I am afraid that the Liao family will make a fuss about this matter, and all the merchants going to the new merchant alliance will, if they were once afraid of being oppressed by the old merchant alliance, and now they mistakenly believe that the new merchant alliance is far more powerful than the Liao family who controls the old merchant alliance, it will definitely cause panic. Once people panic, the Liao family will have an opportunity to take advantage of. When that time comes, the Liao family will only need to waive membership dues and provide some visible benefits to the merchants who once served under them. I am afraid that many people will return to the old business alliance. Mu Yan's little face twisted in worry after hearing this. If we can't refuse, don't we have to meet? Are we really going to be led by the Liao family? Fan Qinjiao smiled and flicked the post in his hand. Since the Liao family is willing to come, there is nothing I dare not see. She had been fishing with the Liao family back in the beginning. Now that the big fish had taken the bait, of course she wanted to put the fishing rod in person to see which kind of immortal was hiding in the water. End of this chapter. The legitimate daughter of the prosperous medical fragrance will not marry. Author, Jinchi. Chapter 885. Chapter 885. Another trick by Fan Qinjiao. Fan Qinjiao did agree to meet, but he did not immediately send the reply to the Liao family. As a result, the Liao family, who had been waiting for news in the mansion, were anxious as ants on a hot pot, especially the two masters of the Liao family, who had not had a good night's sleep for several days. Either you see him or you don't see him, you always have to give him a pleasant word, but Fan Qinjiao, who is biased, doesn't even say that he has seen him, let alone not to see him. He just drags him along without or killing, and there is no movement at all. I have to say that Fan Qinjiao's move was really cruel. In just a few days, the two gentlemen of the Liao family were turned into livid faces. Finally, the second master of the Liao family couldn't wait any longer and came to the door of the Zijiao mansion in person to ask for an explanation. Fan Qinjiao burst out laughing when he heard that Fan Zhao had come to report. The second master of the Liao family is really restless. It has only been a few days before he can't sit still. It's just one thing that he wants to see him, it's another thing entirely whether he wants to see him or not. Of course Fan Qinjiao would not come forward to meet the second master of the Liao family, and he directly asked Fan Zhao to report to Fengtian Mansion. On the surface, Fan Qinjiao has nothing to do with this matter, but now the second master of the Liao family has gone to the door of the western suburbs mansion with a group of Liao family servants, insisting on meeting the princess, isn't it? What's the point of looking for trouble? Soon, the second master of the Liao family was captured by Fengtian Mansion. When the eldest master of the Liao family learned about this, he was so angry that he almost threw him over on the spot. With a dark face, he fished the man out of Fengtian Mansion. After returning to the manor, he directly pinned him to the ground in the main hall. The second master of the Liao family knelt on the ground and looked at his eldest brother with an unconvinced expression. Are we really going to let that little go on rampant? You are so presumptuous. How can you say such dirty words casually? The Liao family uncle glared at his younger brother. After all, she was a legitimate crown princess, so how could they allow them to slander her at will? The second master of the Liao family frowned and said, I'm so angry that I want to ask Fan Qinjiao in person what he means. It's just Fan Qinjiao who is making a fuss out of a molehill. Others don't understand me, so why doesn't my eldest brother understand me either? Of course the uncle of the Liao family knows his younger brother, but he knows the reason for Fan Qinjiao's delay even more clearly. Do you really think that he has nothing to do and is deliberately using this matter to make things difficult for us? What if, the second master of the Liao family obviously did not react? Let's send a message to the Hua family and keep our attitude to the lowest level. No matter how the matter is discussed, Fan Qinjiao will give our Liao family a step up. Otherwise, it will be arrogant. But now that you are making such a fuss, it actually seems that our Liao family is forcing us to meet. In this way, even if Fan Qinjiao is still unwilling to compromise, the people in the main city will never be able to say a word against Fan Qinjiao. The uncle of the Liao family really wanted to pluck out his brother's head and stuff his own into it. The second master of the Liao family also widened his eyes after hearing this. Obviously people are stupid. At this moment, Fan Qingjiao's reply was delivered to the Liao family in a hurry. I didn't expect that little girl Fan Qingjiao to be full of evil intentions. After the second master of the Liao family came to his senses, he cursed bitterly. Uncle Liao also had a headache. He also couldn't understand. The crown princess seemed to be in her teens. Daughters of normal families were still ignorant at this age. How could she be so different from other people when she was born into the crown princess? No matter how angry the two gentlemen of the Liao family were, they still sent the reply message immediately. Unexpectedly, they received a reply very quickly, and the time was set for the evening of the next day. Fan Qingjiao was really surprised when he heard about the agreed time. This time she obviously defeated the Liao family. Normally, the Liao family should delay the meeting first and wait until they calm down completely before discussing the meeting. But unexpectedly, they made an appointment directly for the next day. In this way, either the big fish didn't take the Liao family seriously at all, or he was too calm and self-possessed. However, no matter what the reason was, Fan Qingjiao could never take it lightly. Since the appointment was for the next night, Fan Qingjiao went to Sun Mansion in advance to visit his mother in the morning. Hua Yuelian saw her daughter coming, smiling so hard that she couldn't close her mouth. She quickly ordered people to cook more meals that Yu Yat liked to eat. Although King Xin, who was held in her mother's arms, could not speak yet, she already recognized her. When she saw her sister coming, she stretched out her fat arms and babbling, wanting to hug her. When she was hugged by Fan Qingjiao finally, she just stayed in that warm embrace and refused to come out. While eating, Hua Yuelian remembered the visit of the Cao family and said, "That cousin of yours has such a temper. Speaking of which, Lishan is the poor child. The Cao family has always been very patriarchal. I heard that Lishan when Shan was born, in order to please the Cao family, your cousin threw Lishan away to be raised by her mother in the house. Later, it wasn't until your cousin got seriously ill that she couldn't have any more children. So he brought Lishan back to his side to raise." Fan Qingjiao was stunned, but he didn't expect such a thing to happen. Actually, the Cao family is not the only one who favors boys over girls. Looking at all the rich and powerful families in our main city, all of them hope to have children and grandchildren to continue the family line. If you were a boy back then, the Fan family would not treat you like that. Hua Yuelian looked at Fan Qingjiao and smiled bitterly. It was all her fault for not giving her daughter a good growing environment and childhood. Fan Qingjiao held her mother's hand and said, "Why do you say this so politely?" Hua Yuelian looked at her daughter's delicate features and said, "Both Sun Che and the people in this house are so loving and loving. It is because of this that I feel that it was me who made you homeless because of my own will, my child. I always thought that if you live your whole life and you can't even make the decision on your own affairs, you might as well die to be clean. But only now do I know that my so-called backbone has tricked you." Hua Yuelian's tears couldn't stop flowing down. If she had been able to compromise a little more, if she hadn't been so noble, would her Yu Yat be the eldest lady of the Fan family, instead of having to be raped even now? Criticized as a wild child without a father. In his last life, Fan Qingjiao did blame his mother. And more than once. Even after her mother died, she never wanted to burn paper money for her mother. Just as her mother said, she hated her mother's aloofness and complained about her mother's selfishness. But now, she feels that it is a rare thing for a mother to live for herself. A person's life is so long, why must she stick to the worldly perspective? Only if you are brave enough to live the life you want, your life will be considered worthwhile. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The legitimate daughter of the prosperous medical fragrance will not marry. Author, Jinchi. Chapter 886. Chapter 886, Tang Juwei. Yu Yater, I'm sorry, it was my fault. Hua Yuelian held Fan Qingjiao's hand, her wrist trembling. Fan Qingjiao smiled, Mother has never done anything harmful to the world, nor has she ever betrayed anyone, so why do you say you are wrong? If you are really wrong, it will be those who don't understand me. It's really wrong. If my mother had to compromise in the first place, how could I be loved and cared for by the Hua family? If my mother was willing to work as a cow and a horse in the Fan family, how could she be so devoted to me? But, Mother, no one can tell you the path you want to take, no one is qualified. Hua Yulian choked and said, Mom, I just feel sorry for you. Fan Qingjiao smiled softly, Mother feels sorry for me, but I am proud of my mother. I wonder if there is no mother in Ziliang who dares to be her own woman like me. Hua Yuelian knew that this was her Yuya comforting her, but her heart felt inexplicably warm when she heard it. Looking at her daughter's gentle and firm appearance, she suddenly felt that she had not lived for just a few decades, but she had not yet. A teenage boy is transparent. King Xin didn't know what happened, and she couldn't figure out the conversation between her sister and her mother, but when she saw her mother crying, she anxiously stretched out her chubby little hand, wanting to wipe it with her mother, but, thinking of wiping her mother's tears and leaving her sister's arms, her little face became confused for a moment. Hua Yuelian and Fan Qingjiao were both amused by this little thing when they saw this scene. Fan Qingjiao finished his meal and chatted with his mother for a while. By the time he came out of the Sun mansion, the sun had already set towards the west. After returning to the mansion in the western suburbs, Ninghan had already been waiting in the house. Fan Qingjiao was busy changing his clothes and combing his hair as soon as he walked in. Because he was going out to meet strangers today, Fan Qingjiao specially wore men's clothes, which made it even easier. After taking care of his appearance, he waited until everything was settled before he got into the carriage again. The meeting place was a bit unfamiliar to Fan Qingjiao. When Lanja arrived by car, Fan Qingjiao discovered that it was actually a flower shop. Langya looked at the smoky atmosphere outside the door and frowned subconsciously. How could Fan Qingjiao not guess that this was a deliberate attempt to embarrass her, but since she decided to meet, she would have to go through all kinds of dangers, so just trying to embarrass her with a mere flower house would be too much to underestimate her. Leaving the wolf fangs outside, Fan Qingjiao entered the flower building alone. Based on the principle of neither listening nor looking, he followed the boy who led the way to the door of a private room on the second floor. When he opened the door, he saw a man standing there. He sat with his back to her and listened to the geisha playing and singing. The man did not look back when he heard Fan Qingjiao's footsteps, but continued to listen to the tune attentively. Fan Qingjiao looked at the seat specially set aside for the man, lifted up his robe and sat on it, silently listening to the geishas playing and singing. The man didn't seem to expect that Fan Qingjiao could be so calm. The corners of his lips curved up, and he suddenly gave 3 high fives. The geisha who was still playing and singing quickly stood up and saluted, and then hurriedly left. With the geisha leaving, the private room also fell into silence. I didn't expect that the crown princess is not only resourceful but also brave. I really admire you. The man looked at Fan Qingjiao first and said, then picked up the teapot and poured tea himself. Fan Qingjiao was shocked. Even if the Liao family knew that King Nanzai was related to her, she came here in disguise this time. Fan Qingjiao was still very confident in his disguise, but now this man could see through her disguise at a glance, which showed that he was also an expert in medical skills. Just as Fan Qingjiao was thinking about it, the man had already pushed the teacup over. Fan Qingjiao instinctively turned sideways to take it, and then he saw the man's appearance clearly. She is wearing a green robe, black hair hanging loose, and the ends of her hair are only fastened with simple jade buttons. She is lazily adding a touch of indescribable charm, her skin is fair, and her eyebrows are long. If you don't distinguish carefully, this kind of appearance can really be described as, it is difficult to distinguish between male and female. What surprised Fan Kinjao the most was that she had seen this face before. This man was the man who accompanied the emperor when he was appreciating lanterns on the 15th. The man was still smiling like a spring breeze. Tang Juwei has seen the crown princess, but he didn't expect that the crown princess would be so surprised. It seems to be a rude act by someone on the Tang dynasty. Fan Kinjao came back to his senses, suppressed the surprise in his heart and nodded lightly. The person who posted the post to me was the Liao family. I didn't expect that you claimed your surname was Tang. It really surprised me. The smile on Tang Juwei's face was still there. I have long heard that the crown princess is very sharp-tongued, but now that I see her, she is indeed well-deserved. However, Fan Kinjao obviously had no intention of dealing with him anymore. He stood up and said, "The reason why I came to the appointment today is because of the sincerity of the Liao family. Since it is not the Liao family who is here, I don't think I have either it's necessary to stay here." As soon as he finished speaking, he turned around and walked away without any hesitation. Tang Juwei looked at Fan Kinjao's back and said, "If I tell you, even the old man of the Liao family would give me 3 points of noodles when he saw me. I wonder if the princess would still be willing to stay and have a sip of tea." Fan Kinjao felt nervous. He originally thought that this man was just a cooperative relationship with the Liao family, but now his tone seemed to put all the pressure on the Liao family. This can be seen from the fact that the two arrogant men of the Liao family would post messages to her in a condescending manner. After calming down, Fan Kinjao walked back. Now she didn't care about this person's relationship with the Liao family. What she wanted to know more was why this person was standing beside the emperor on the 15th day. And judging from the emperor's attitude, he seemed to be very polite to this man. In Ziliang, there is only one person who can bend the height of 95 people. Tang Juwei looked at Fan Kinjao who sat back beside him, and the smile in his eyes became stronger. Calculating the fact that he has been in the main city for such a long time, what he has heard the most is about the deeds of the princess in front of him. He originally thought that she was just a smart girl, but he did not expect that he underestimated her. Every word or action may seem careless, but in fact it is done step by step. Just like just now, he clearly knew that she got up and left just to test his relationship with the Liao family, but in order to keep her here, even if he guessed her thoughts, he still had to follow the path she designed. Such a shrewd mind is really rare. Under Tang Juwei's gaze, Fan Kinjao picked up the teacup in front of him and took a sip. Then he put down the teacup and said, "The tea has been drunk. If you have anything to say, Mr. Tang, just say it." End of this chapter. The legitimate daughter of the prosperous medical fragrance will not marry. Author, Jinchi. Chapter 887. Chapter 887 The Perfect Person in the World. Master Tang. Tang Juwei seemed very interested in this title. The crown princess is the first person to call me master. Mr. Tang is a talented person. If you just look at his face, it is not an exaggeration to call him a son. However, ordinary people only know what is in the heart, but do not know that the eyes are in the heart. Only after Mr. Tang has seen through the hot and cold world, can he be calm and calm. Not everyone has stagnant eyes. The man in front of him is not only charming, but also young and energetic. With this face, he looks like he is only in his early 20s, but the aura that stands out about this man is completely opposite to that of youthful and energetic. Fan Kinjao is indeed not interested in methods of rejuvenation, but she understands medical skills after all. No matter how well maintained the body is, in her eyes, it is still just a body that needs to be covered up. Tang Juwei touched his fair face and suddenly got a little closer to Fan Kinjao. "The crown princess is great, but I don't know if the crown princess can calculate my true age." Fan Kinjao frowned and leaned back, not hiding his disgust and alienation from Tang Juwei's approach. "I'm not sitting here to tell Mr. Tang's fortune." Tang Juwei was stunned for a moment, then laughed loudly, "Ha ha ha, it's interesting. Renmei has a smart mind, superb medical skills, and is brave and resourceful. He never thought in his life that he would meet such a perfect person in the world. Actually, Tang wanted to negotiate peace with the crown princess today. Tang Juwei was still smiling. Fan Qinjiao obviously did not accept this trick. If Mr. Tang wants to negotiate peace with the Liao family, it is actually unnecessary. The Liao family can have the honor to share the worries of the court. That is the emperor's respect, and it is also the Liao family's admiration. What does the new business alliance say? The establishment of a business alliance in the main city is a voluntary act by the merchants. As long as there are people around and people are willing to join the association, the business alliance can be established at any time. This is how the business alliance under the control of the Liao family was established. Now there are new ones in the main city. The business alliance is also reasonable. Although I occasionally go to my fourth sister's shop, the Su family is the big one when it comes to the new business alliance. Unfortunately, my fourth sister also has a cooperative relationship with the head of the Su family. I can't think of anything else to say. Fan Qinjiao's words immediately blocked all escape routes. To put it more bluntly, if you want to ask for favors from her, it would be faster to dream. Tang Juwei was a little bit speechless. He didn't expect Fan Qinjiao to make his relationship with the Su family so clear so quickly. And as Fan Qinjiao himself said, King Nanzai now belongs to Huangyan. No matter how much you check, you can't find Fan Qinjiao's head. Even if Fan Qinjiao is involved in King Nanzai's business, wouldn't it be okay for a sister to help her sister? What if I say that the Liao family wants to join the new business alliance? Tang Juwei looked at Fan Qinjiao and said. Fan Qinjiao's heart skipped a beat. Given the influence of the Liao family among the merchants in the main city, even if the reputation is not as good as before, a skinny camel is bigger than a horse, and the operation of the business alliance requires a lot of money every year and the establishment of relationships with all parties. Between businessmen, interests are always maximized. So once the Liao family enters the new business alliance, even Su Shaoxi will give the Liao family a place, so as to use the Liao family's various relationships in the main city to obtain greater benefits and development space for the new business alliance. So this decision seems to be to let the Liao family enter the new business alliance and rely on others, but in fact it is a desperate move. It's just that not everyone has the courage to make such a desperate move. Fan Qinjiao does not want the Liao family to participate in the new business alliance, but it has to be said that it is still beneficial for the Liao family to join the new business alliance. Moreover, the largest leader in the new business alliance is Su Shaoxi, and she cannot make any decisions on Su Shaoxi's behalf. I didn't expect Master Tang to be able to help the Liao family make such an important decision, but the Liao family's sincerity was extremely pitiful. After all, if the Liao family was really sincere, they should have discussed it with the young master of the Su family in person, instead of sending someone to a middleman is sitting here talking to me. If such shameless words were placed on the two masters of the Liao family, they would probably have walked away in anger. However, Tang Juwei not only did not get angry, but instead smiled and nodded, and said in agreement. The crown princess's suggestion is good. When I get back, I will ask the Liao family to personally post a message to the Su family. Mr. Tang is very smart and has nothing to do with me. To be honest, with Mr. Tang's connections in the main city, if he really wants to help the Liao family, he may not have to join the new business alliance. Tang Juwei looked at Fan Qinjiao with a smile. They had made their relationship clear so quickly. The princess was really not willing to let down her guard at all. I am not related to the Liao family, it is just a cooperative relationship. Not to mention that I am not as well connected as the crown princess said in the main city. Even if that is the case, I should pave the way for myself instead of preparing for others. Tang Juwei said slowly and authentically. Fan Qinjiao didn't have much expression on his face, but he was slightly shocked in his heart. In this way, the relationship between the man named Tang and the Liao family is not as good as it seems. Rather than a cooperative relationship, it is more appropriate to say that they got together because of interests. If the Liao family wants to use this person to stand more firmly in the main city, then why does this person contact the Liao family? Speaking of which, I have a certain affinity for Mr. Tang. I seem to have seen him somewhere, but where exactly? It should be during the 15th day of the lantern viewing period. Before Fan Qinjiao could probe further, Tang Juwei took the initiative to admit it. Fan Qinjiao looked at Tang Juwei quietly. At this moment, he didn't know what the other person was thinking. Tang Juwei admitted openly, "That day when I was appreciating the lanterns, Mr. Tang was lucky enough to travel with the emperor. Unexpectedly, I met the crown princess and her group on the street. However, something unexpected happened at that time, and Mr. Tang did not have time to follow me. The crown princess said hello, it's Tang's loss." Those who don't know what he said are thinking that he plans to marry Fan Qinjiao after all his good words. But the more eloquent Fan Qinjiao was, the more he didn't believe a word he said. It's just that Fan Qinjiao did see this person following the emperor that day. This is an indisputable fact. Now, although this person seems to have admitted the matter happily, he only said that he was accompanying the emperor and nothing else. If Fan Qinjiao, if he kept asking questions, he might be trying to find out the emperor's whereabouts. Since he can't find out anything anymore, Fan Qinjiao no longer needs to sit here and waste time. It's getting late, so I won't stay here to disturb Mr. Tang's interest. Tang Juwei did not stop him. He just looked at Fan Qinjiao and said with a smile, "The crown princess will soon know that I have no ill intentions, or in other words, I am on the crown princess's side." Fan Qinjiao. I thank you. End of this chapter. The legitimate daughter of the prosperous medical fragrance will not marry. Author, Jinchi. Chapter 888. Chapter 888. The 18 Changes of a Male Adult. Fan Qinjiao certainly didn't believe what Tang Juwei said. To put it bluntly, any merchant who can establish a foothold in the main city is not a business owner who is careful with calculations. The Liao family dared to even step on Bailey Rong's boat, and their ambitions are obvious. In this case, how can Tang Juwei, who is involved with the Liao family, be a good person? However, this person speaks impeccably, and there is no flaw on his face, but he is far more difficult to deal with than the Liao family. The more Fan Qinjiao thought about it, the more he felt that Tang Juwei was not a good match. When he returned to the mansion, he asked Taxiu to send a letter to the palace, writing down what happened today in the letter, and on the one hand, he reminded Bailey Feng. Ming was wary of Tang Juwei's existence, and asked Bailey Feng Ming to check Tang Juwei's background. Unexpectedly, Fan Qinjiao received a letter from Su Shaoxi before he heard from Bailey Feng Ming. The content of the letter is very simple. The Liao family abolished the old business alliance and took all the elders of the old business alliance to join the new business alliance unconditionally. Fan Qinjiao was really stunned when he read the letter. The two masters of the Liao family are both high-minded people, not to mention the old master of the Liao family. He has been a man of influence in the business alliance all his life. Now he would rather give up his comfort zone and go to the new business. In the alliance, I stay under the fence. I have to say that Tang Juwei is really an extraordinary person. However, Fan Qinjiao couldn't guess what the other party was thinking. Of course, Su Shaoxi will not prevent the Liao family from joining the new business alliance. In other words, the Liao family's joining is a side proof of the strength of the new business alliance. However, it is not that simple for the Liao family to get a piece of the pie under Su Shaoxi's nose. Yes, Su Shaoxi is not very young, but her tactics have always been ruthless. But what everyone didn't expect was that the Liao family actually worked for Su Shaoxi without any complaints, just like the vanguard of the new merchant alliance. In this way, it seemed that the Liao family and the new merchant alliance had really turned their hostility into friendship. It was as if all the grudges had been wiped out. Facing the Liao family who were so willing to be weaklings, Su Shaoxi felt numb. Su Shaoxi, who really didn't understand what the Liao family was planning, had to make an appointment with Fan Qinjiao. However, now that the Liao family had lowered themselves to such a low level, Fan Qinjiao could only let Su Shaoxi maintain the relationship on the surface and continue in private. Keep an eye on the Liao family. As long as you are a fox, there will always be a day when you cannot hide your tail. It's just a matter of sooner or later. After mid-July, Ziliang ushered in the God Worship Festival. Early in the morning, the people in the main city all walked in the direction of Huguo Temple. It is said that if you sincerely pray and worship the Buddha on this day, you will definitely have smooth sailing for a year. Everyone here in the western suburbs mansion was also getting ready to go out early in the morning, but Fan Qinjiao didn't like places like Huguo Temple, and he didn't believe in the Buddha's blessing, so he simply took a rest in the mansion on the grounds that he was tired. Refused to go with everyone. But now there are outsiders living in the Hua family. Even if Fan Qinjiao doesn't accompany him, he still must be polite. After breakfast, he personally supported his grandmother's arm and sent everyone towards the door of the house. Tao Yuxian didn't know the reason why Fan Qinjiao didn't go to worship. He just thought it was because he was really feeling unwell. He looked at her carefully and warned her, "I see you have lost a lot of weight recently. Autumn is coming soon. If I keep losing weight like this, won't winter be more difficult? I have asked Aunt He to send the key to my warehouse to your yard. You can go to the warehouse to take a look later and pick out some nourishing food. The ginseng, Ganoderma lucidum, and the like come out and are cooked for you to replenish your health." Yin Lia, who was walking aside, was stunned when she heard these words. The warehouse in the mansion is filled with all the valuable things in the mansion. How could it be given to a junior so easily? Then when she heard Tao Yuxian mentioning ginseng and Ganoderma lucidum, Yin Lia's heartbeat gradually accelerated. She had heard her mother-in-law say that, her aunt does not love money but only loves medicinal materials, and in her hands is a collection of many thousand-year-old medicinal materials that are unique in the main city. As soon as her eyes rolled, Yin Lia's feet swayed. Cao Lishan saw her mother almost falling to the ground and quickly reached out to support her. However, thinking that there were many people around, she just looked up and down worriedly and did not say a word. Yin Lia didn't expect her daughter to be so useless. When she should speak, she couldn't say a word. In desperation, she pinched the back of Cao Lishan's hand hard. Cao Lishan felt pain and was about to burst into tears, but she still didn't make a sound. Fan Qinjiao caught all of Yin Lia's little movements with his peripheral vision, and said slowly, "Just now I saw my cousin almost falling, but is there anything uncomfortable about her?" Yin Lia quickly covered her forehead and said, "I suddenly felt dizzy. I haven't been able to sleep well these past few days. I don't know what the reason is. Daughter-in-law of each house. What other reasons could it be? To put it bluntly, I just want to slander the medicinal materials." Fan Qinjiao walked to Yin Lia's side, grabbed her wrist that was trying to retract, stretched out his hand and pressed it. After a while, he pretended to be worried and said, "There's nothing serious. It's probably caused by acclimatization. If my cousin wants to get well soon, it is better to go back to Lingcheng as soon as possible to worship Buddha, so that she can recover as before." Yin Lia. Is this a medical treatment? This is obviously to drive her away. The daughter-in-law of each house almost laughed out loud, she deserved it. It's just some minor problems, I won't bother Sister Yao to worry about it. Yin Lia gritted her teeth and retracted her hand, not forgetting to glare at Fan Qinjiao hatefully. Fan Qinjiao smiled faintly, supported his grandmother and continued to walk to the door. Tao Yuxian has lived for most of his life, and how could he not understand Yin Lia's little thoughts, and how her sister manages the house, and how she actually raised such a disgraceful daughter-in-law. Today is a good day for worshipping gods. If grandma has something on her mind, she will live up to the weather. Fan Kinjao winked playfully. Tao Yuxian was so amused that he burst into laughter. I know, you are the only one who is smart. While talking, everyone arrived at the door of the mansion. Unexpectedly, as soon as they stepped out, they saw a carriage lying firmly at the foot of the steps. As Xiaoxian jumped out of the carriage and opened the door, Bailey Fengming walked out. Under the early sun, Bailey Fengming's figure was tall and elegant. The white robe on her body and the jade crown on her head complemented each other. Her cheeks were fair and her eyes were as bright as the stars. Her elegant posture attracted all the members of the Hua family. My daughter-in-law was stunned for a long time. It doesn't matter if you have been good-looking since you were a child, why do you still wear something that looks better as it grows? It is often said that a woman can change her body in 18 years, but I didn't expect that a man's transformation is also amazing. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The legitimate daughter of the prosperous medical fragrance will not marry. Author, Jinchi. Chapter 889. Chapter 889 Encounter with Fanswinning. When Tao Yuxian saw Bailey Fengming, she frowned subconsciously. She would not forget that there were Yin Lia and her daughter beside her. It was just to conceal the identity of the prince and to stir up trouble. Now they met face to face, but again what should we do? Just when Tao Yuxian was struggling, Bailey Fengming had already walked over and took the initiative to say, I heard that Kinjao has been feeling unwell recently, and I thought that I might not be able to go to the God Worship Festival with the old lady of the Hua family today, so I thought come over and stay with her, so that the old lady of the Hua family can rest assured. Tao Yuxian subconsciously bent over, it's such a bother. Bailey Fengming grabbed Tao Yuxian's wrist and smiled like a spring breeze, the old lady of the Hua family is serious. Kinjao and this junior have an engagement, so it's natural for this junior to come and visit Kinjao. After hearing this, Tao Yuxian realized that the prince had probably seen something, so he followed her wishes and did not reveal his identity. Then he looked at the prince's deep eyebrows, and Tao Yuxian smiled and nodded, that's the case, I am naturally relieved. Bailey Fengming smiled again before walking to Fan Kinjao's side. But before Fan Kinjao could say anything, Yin Lia dragged Cao Lishan over and said, I didn't expect that this is our sister Yao's fiancé. He really looks like a talented person. This is my daughter Lishan, call someone quickly. Cao Lishan lowered her head and murmured for a long time before Nyanyo said authentically, cousin husband. When Bailey Fengming saw that Fan Kinjao didn't take the initiative to speak, he understood what was going on. However, since Cao Lishan had spoken, he couldn't really turn a blind eye, otherwise it would make Fan Kinjao unable to get off the stage. Yeah, a faint voice seemed to be an agreement, but in fact it meant a rejection. Hearing this Cao Lishan lowered her head to her chest. Yin Lia didn't seem to notice Bailey Fengming's indifferent attitude. She took her daughter's hand and said, looking at the clothes he's wearing, he doesn't look like a young master from an ordinary family. I don't know what the family does, but there are other brothers. Hearing this, the daughters-in-law of each house were all shocked. He is not your daughter's fiancé. What do you want to know so clearly? Fan Kinjao's face also turned cold. Just because she didn't speak, it doesn't mean that she really acquiesced to this cousin's behavior of kicking her nose and face. But before Fan Kinjao could say anything, Tao Yuxian shouted angrily, today is a big day for worshipping gods. Why don't you all get in the car quickly? Why are you standing here in a daze? If you delay the time, you will all be protecting the country tonight. Those who eat fast and chant sutras in the temple should make amends to the Buddha. Of course, the daughter-in-law of each room could tell who the words were directed at, and they immediately pulled Yin Laya and Caolishan in threes and threes, without giving Yin Laya a chance to struggle, and directly dragged them into the carriage. Of course, Yin Laya didn't want to leave just like that. She hadn't finished her words yet, but after such a delay, Bailey Fengming and Fan Qinjiao had already disappeared from the door of the house. Looking at the empty door of the house, Yin Laya could only hold back her breath and shrink back into the carriage. Originally, the fourth daughter-in-law, Yafu, wanted to ride in a carriage with Yin Laya, but thinking about Yin Laya's actions just now, she had to resist. She would rather squeeze into a carriage with other sisters-in-law than sit with Yin Laya. As a result, Caolishan was the only one left in Yin Laya's carriage. As the carriage drove slowly, Yin Laya looked at Caolishan and cursed, "You are really a coward. You don't even know how to fight for such a good performance opportunity. Then besides being better looking, what else does Fan Qinjiao have? Nen Nai, why are you so useless?" Caolishan lowered her head and whispered, "Mom, forget it, but that's cousin Qinjiao's fiancé. What the heck, any man in Ziliang doesn't have a lot of wives and concubines. Even your unattractive father is an ant with several houses, let alone the young master of a wealthy family in the main city. Let me tell you, if you rob if no one comes, I will send you to Guza's temple. Have you heard what I said? You don't even know what kind of character you are. If I hadn't had the misfortune to give birth to you, no one would even want you as a concubine. Now I'm working so hard to pave the way for you, isn't it because I have no other choice, otherwise you think I want to be your mother? You don't have to say anything now, I'll put it here today. If you can't even compete with a bastard, then you might as well die." Yin Laya's shouts and curses came intermittently from the carriage. The boy driving the carriage couldn't help but sigh. It was really unlucky to have such a girl at the stall. Caolishan, who was sitting in the carriage, did not dare to resist in any way, and she did not even dare to say anything. She just kept twisting the handkerchief in her hand until the handkerchief changed its shape. The carriage jolted for half an hour, and finally arrived at Huguo Temple. Everyone got off the carriage one after another and stood at the foot of the mountain and looked up. There were dense crowds of people who came to worship. Tao Yuxian and others were about to walk up the steps when suddenly a familiar figure came into view. The daughters-in-law of each room in the Hua family looked at the person and froze in place. Fan Swining, who came to worship Buddha with her maid, did not expect to meet the Hua family here, but since they met face to face, it was hard to pretend not to see them. I said why she looked so familiar. It turned out to be the old lady of the Hua family. Fan Swining walked over first, with a charming but condescending smile on her face. In Fan Qinjiao's eyes, she did not have a high status, but among other people in front of others, she still has the capital to hold her head high. The Hua family's impression of Fan Swining was still in their childhood, but now they can guess Fan Swining's identity by looking at the eyebrows and eyes that are very similar to their own Xiao Qinjiao. I just thought that Fan Swining and Fan Qinjiao had a bad relationship, and the daughters-in-law of the Hua family had no intention of speaking. The maid next to Fan Swining frowned and said, "Why are you so unruly? When you meet Aunt Fan from the third prince's mansion, you are not polite enough to say hello." Fan Swining waved her hands, then looked at the Hua family and said, "My servants don't understand the rules and have disturbed everyone." Tao Yuxian smiled lightly, "I have long heard that Aunt Fan is very favored in the third prince's mansion. It is true that she is so when I see her today. It's just that she has married into the royal family, even if she has no name or status, she is still a member of the royal family, and the servants around her are so arrogant and majestic. It's not just Aunt Fan's face, but also the royal family's face." The smile on Fan Swining's face froze. What the old lady of the Hua family said is true, but the third prince has never mentioned these words to me. I was negligent. These words are clearly talking about Tao Yuxian's dog catching the mouse. Tao Yuxian was not angry either. He just paused and said, it is indeed a rare blessing to have the attention of the third prince. However, everyone's blessing is limited. If you waste more, you will definitely lose more than you gain. And Fan is so smart, she should know that the royal family it's not just the third prince. Just because the third prince likes you doesn't mean that everyone else in the royal family likes you. If concubine you really likes you, the position of the third prince's concubine will not be taken by anyone else. In the final analysis, she is just a little ant, so why bother? Feeling proud and carried away by the temporary spring breeze. End of this chapter. The legitimate daughter of the prosperous medical fragrance will not marry. Author, Jinchi. Chapter 890. Chapter 890. Fan Kinjao is the most selfish. Tao Yuxian's words were so sharp that they made Fan Swinning's face turn pale. But unfortunately, Fan Swinning cannot be angry, otherwise she will really make things worse here and alarm the people in the palace, and then concubine you will find excuses to punish her again. Looking at the number of people worshipping God today, I won't waste Mrs. Hua's time here. When I get free time in the future, I will definitely pay a visit in person. Fan Swinning smiled softly and led the maid towards the steps. Went up. Tao Yuxian looked at Fan Swinning's back, feeling somewhat surprised. They also lived in the main city. It was not that she had never seen Fan Swinning when she was young. She had been spoiled by the Fan family for a long time. She was spoiled, unruly, and domineering. She didn't expect that when she saw Fan Swinning now, she would already be, there is no trace of what it was back then. Of course Tao Yuxian knew that it was not Fan Swinning who was sensible, but Fan Swinning who was smarter and more restrained. To put it bluntly, it was not entirely luck that Fan Swinning was favored by the third prince. Thinking about how Xiao Qinjao would have to deal with the third prince and Fan Swinning after she married the prince, Tao Yuxian couldn't help but worry. The road ahead was still so long, and who knew who would have the last laugh? Why is that person's surname just now Fan? I wonder what she has to do with Sister Yao? I heard that the maid said that she was the concubine of the third prince. Is it true or not? Isn't she from the royal family? Yin Lia came to Tao Yuxian's side. Around me, people were chattering, inquiring endlessly. Tao Yuxian glanced at Yin Lia coldly after coming back to his senses. How can you and I have no say in royal matters? Just focus on the path you're on. The daughters-in-law of each room in the Hua family were too lazy to talk to Yin Lia, and supported Tao Yuxian towards the mountain. She was just a concubine of a prince. How could she be so excited? If she really knew that Xiao Qinjao was the princess, would she have fainted on the spot? Yin Lia was embarrassed and could only vent her anger on Cao Lishan. Look at them, who is not better than you? Cao Lishan also didn't expect that the woman she just spoke to would be the concubine of the current prince. She looked for Fan Swinning's figure and looked deeply again. By chance, when Fan Swinning turned around, she saw Cao Lishan. Looking at each other, Fan Swinning smiled softly at Cao Lishan. Cao Lishan's heart quickened a little for no reason, and she quickly lowered her head in panic. It was not close to the Huguo temple from the foot of the mountain to the top of the mountain. It was not until noon that everyone entered the Huguo temple. It happened to be the time to eat vegetarian food at Huguo temple. Tao Yuxian simply took everyone to eat first. However, Yin Lia couldn't eat the vegetarian food without oil and water at all. She said it was salty and bland, and finally asked Cao Lishan to go to the foot of the mountain to give it to her. Buy some mochi dumplings to fill your stomach. The daughters-in-law of the Hua family have never seen such a cruel mother. Are they using their daughters as maids or treating them like animals? They are also people with daughters. How can they not feel uncomfortable after seeing this? But no matter how uncomfortable they felt, they didn't dare to speak for Cao Lishan without authorization. The last time they were in the mansion, because Tao Yuxian couldn't bear to see Yin Lia abusing Cao Lishan, she just said a few words to Yin Lia. Unexpectedly, after Yin Lia returned, which left Caolishan without eating for 3 days. In the end, and he discovered the matter and secretly told Tao Yuxian. Tao Yuxian gave Yinlaya an ultimatum, either let Caolishan eat or pack her things and leave Hua's house, so that Caolishan could finally eat. Faced with Yinlaya's instructions to Caolishan, even Tao Yuxian couldn't say anything openly, otherwise Caolishan would suffer even more. "Don't you feel aggrieved?" a voice suddenly remembered behind Caolishan. Caolishan turned around and saw Fan Swinning walking over with a smile, holding a bowl of vegetarian rice in her hand. "It's not too late to eat the food first and then go shopping. There are so many people, even if it takes a little longer, it's a pity original." Caolishan was stunned when she looked at the vegetarian meal in front of her. She wanted to take it but didn't dare. "I happened to be eating just now, and I saw something I shouldn't have seen. I hope you don't mind. I just didn't expect the Hua family to be so indifferent. No one can even say a word to you." Fan Swinning looked at her. Seeing that there were many people around, he simply took Caolishan to a remote yard in the backyard. Caolishan quickly explained, "It's not like that. The elders of the Hua family all know that if they plead for me, my mother will teach me a lesson even harder, so they don't dare to speak." Fan Swinning smiled after hearing this, sat down on a tree stump with Caolishan and said, "If there are people who really want to help you, how could they have so many worries? In the end, you and them are not that big. You can tell by looking at the crown princess. When the crown princess was homeless, the Hua family did not have this attitude. Tai, crown princess. Don't you know that the current mistress of the Hua family is also my half-sister Fan Qinjiao? She is the current crown princess. Although she has not been married yet, she has been personally approved by the emperor, and now the people in the main city have also changed their name to the crown princess." Caolishan was really shocked. If cousin Qinjiao was the crown princess, then wouldn't the person she just saw at the door of the house be His Royal Highness the Crown Prince today? "I didn't expect that. The Hua family didn't even tell you such a thing. Sure enough, you are the same as me, you are disliked by others." Fan Swinning sighed quietly. Caolishan shook her head, "We are different. You are already the third prince's concubine." Fan Swinning looked at Caolishan and said with a smile, "Everything I have now is earned by myself. If you want, I can help you. As long as you nod, I will let you live the life you want sooner or later." "But good." Caolishan was stunned for a moment, thinking about what kind of life she wanted to live. Unexpectedly, the image of the day she arrived at the Zijiao mansion and saw His Highness the Crown Prince carefully arranging cousin Qinjiao's hair appeared in her mind. So doting and gentle. As she thought about it, Caolishan's cheeks turned red. "It seems like you have someone you like," Fan Swinning said softly. Caolishan shook her head quickly, "No, cousin Qinjiao is very good to me, but I am not, no." Fan Swinning was stunned when she heard this. She didn't expect that the person Caolishan liked would be the current prince. But the more this happens, the more interesting things become. If Fan Qinjiao was really good to you, why wouldn't she tell you the truth? She was originally a princess respected by thousands of people. She really wanted to save you from your mother, but it was just a matter of moving her fingers. But she keeps hiding it from you. Do you really think that Fan Qinjiao is treating you well as long as he smiles at you? You still don't understand Fan Qinjiao. In fact, Fan Qinjiao is the most selfish. End of this chapter.